Good evening, Vivek.
What is up?
Such a unique experience.
Bizarre, yeah. Doing an in real life podcast with two of us sitting with a camera and a mobile phone and doing this sitting opposite each other. But this is good, this is good. Yeah. Plan was messed up
What?
because we came back here and caught a cab in the morning after we didn't down from the bus. I was coming through and I was like, damn, I don't miss any of this at all.
Certified Goa boy.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not about Goa per se, but I figured that like this isn't it anymore. It was great, like for the time that I was here, but I kind of feel like
how I feel about Bombay. You feel the same way.
Yeah, I guess so.
Nice.
So today we're jumping right into it.
What? I was hoping to hijack the pod.
You wanted to hijack the podcast.
Yeah.
This podcast is yours. How can you hijack your own podcast?
No, in the
It's like
sense,
running a coup.
no, in the sense. So again, I've been having my fear of, are we doing things that are valuable enough? I'm still on board with the game, but I've been indulging in YouTube porn.
Okay.
Like I've been watching like Elon Musk Starship rocket launch, that kind of stuff. And then like again the question comes in my mind, right? Like there are some incredible opportunities being unlocked. Are we spending our time operating in a brownfield space where things we'll have to work really hard to make very little money?
I see what you mean. Is this the big calling?
No, it's not. It's not that. I'm just asking the question again and again, right? Like I had this concern before we spoke. I kind of said, okay, fine. That there seems like some promise of, building something valuable. But then looking at something at that scale, right? Like we are talking about reducing the number of tons to space, which opens up a whole new world. Like it's like the oil rush all over again, right? Or the gold rush all over again.
Right.
Like, do you want to be a part of that, or do you want to do something which is well known, well structured, tried and tested?
Okay, so I get where you're coming from. I also like the idea that it's so early that it's a thing that we can start building towards, and it's like running to where the ball is going to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of situation. Like we imagine that in a few years' time, say commercial space transport is going to be viable. So should we be building something?
Yeah, like so the reason I called it YouTube porn is because the algo kicks in, right? So I watched a video about how they're prepping for the second launch, and then like the algo kicks in, and then it starts talking to you about other companies operating the same space. So there's a 3D printing company which is trying to 3D print homes, right? So that just starts making you realize the enormity of the project, right? Like, okay, he's solving the transport layer. He's making sure that you can go to another planet and do it economically to some extent. Then what are the possibilities, right? Obviously, the most obvious one is space tourism, which is what all these other guys are trying to aim for.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos and all those guys, right? But if you look at, okay, now you've got a whole new planet. What would you want to do there?
Right.
What is commercial and viable, right?
Right.
So,
no, but I think it's going to take the exact route that the colonialists did when they were discovering new lands, which is they're going to first send military, try and establish certain things, and then it's going to be open to the public.
But that's the difference, right? Oh no, it's the same. So you had East India Company, which was like a private entity, which goes, and then the state comes after that.
So I mean, the whole won't call it the backlash, but the critique and the kind of narratives and rhetorics that got built around Chandrayaan making it and doing a proper soft landing and the rovers out and India having that thing. You see, it's the space race is always nationalistic, right? Like, save for SpaceX and his Starlink. And I was reading about the deep involvement he's had in the Ukraine-Russia war, just because of this infrastructure that he's built for himself over there, right? Like, that's a sort of like communications in space, non-jurisdictional, open to everyone. That is something like very fascinating. That is doable even by our standards, uh, because I think if you and I really wanted to, you and I could build a router that can go to space. I don't think that's too challenging, right? Second stage, India is doing payloads and launching shit anyways. Get in touch with the right people. Buy
The unit economics of this, right? So there was this other company called OneWeb which Airtel went and invested in. That failed miserably because of unit economics, right? Like the reason why Starlink works is because he's got heavy lift vehicles which can take a whole bunch of things.
Correct.
Reusable, cheap.
Right.
Right. So
yeah, one route does not go to anything.
No. The reusable part is the rocket, right? India doesn't have a reusable rocket, right? So. But like to go ahead and I'm not convinced that we are the right people to go build that base infrastructure, right?
No, of course, yeah.
That takes a different kind of thing. But
right.
The same thing, like the conversation I keep having with my uncle, right? Like he's a scientist. They do like fundamental, physics, which enables so many awesome outcomes, right? And he's always so pissed off that hey, this is not profitable enough as much as you guys who are sitting at the consumer edge, and you're kind of skimming off the cream, right?
Right.
So like I'm still thinking along those lines, right? Like okay, someone's going ahead and creating all this base infrastructure.
Yeah.
What is that cream that we can kind of be a part of?
Yeah, very interesting.
But then, like, you just kind of poured water over everything by bringing it back to reality and saying that okay, hey, there's going to be a territorial fight and all of that will happen.
I mean, it's something we cannot avoid. But like, look at Elon's positioning of himself and SpaceX as a private entity. It puts him he is so far ahead in this game that all the countries are sort of looking to him for answers. Is there, like, to draw a metaphor, OpenAI built or developed GPT, whatever version, and immediately after they found that there is one application which is how you can interface with it, which was ChatGPT, which blew up. There was a flurry of wrappers, right? Like stuff that got built on top of OpenAI. So, in a similar analogy, if Elon has reusable rockets and the unit economics really work with him, and we aren't like nationalistically tied, we just want to be a company that builds something awesome that people really love and want to use. Is there a possibility to hitch a ride on Elon's rocket, right? Like, because I don't think he'll care which country we're from, what, it doesn't matter. As long as we are able to foot the bill, he will give us space in payroll, and we can figure out a contract which works out. So, what we're talking about is like similar, right? Like, there's an OpenAI equivalent, which is SpaceX, and we build a wrapper on top of it which enables something for somebody who
then
needs it.
that begs the important question, right? What all needs to happen in what sequence for something valuable that we can kind of be involved in, right? So, for example, they'll have to go land a rocket there, and then they have to set up basic amenities, right? They have to set up a town or whatever, like outpost, and then they'll have to kind of set up, I don't know, like
I'm saying I'm like if you look at again, like the reason I'm picking up Elon Musk and his trajectory is like because he's played a really long tail game. Because he realizes that going to Mars isn't like, or going to the moon isn't like going to happen in a decade. It's going to take 3 decades at least.
No, dude. The reason I'm talking about this is because the likelihood of it happening in like this decade itself is very, very high.
Interesting. No, but he's been working on it already for a decade now, right? Like so, within the like he is going to achieve peak performance output. We take SpaceX to profitability, so to speak, in the next.
I think it's already kind of profitable. I'm not sure. I need to check it out, but like they've been shipping cargo left and center.
Yeah.
Manned missions to the ISS.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a problem.
But I'm sure it's helping with cash flow.
Of course,
I'm sure it's not like making them profitable.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. And like see, here's the reason why he's built Starlink after SpaceX, right? Like because the first thing you need is comms, and more important than the comms on another planet, you want comms to communicate back. So he's going to build that infrastructure no matter what. The cool thing is, do you think we can be some sort of local ISP?
No, that's what I don't want to get into things which will
again infrastructure.
Yeah.
So
like I want us to. So this almost like ignited the child in me, right? Like where you play these video games where you have to set up. Have you played that Empire Earth or one of these civilizational games, right? No. You start off at the Stone Age and then you have to kind of take it all the way to right. Yeah. So like my mind was like, oh my god, if he's going to get you the transport and there are companies which are trying to figure out 3D printing houses, like what is the sequence of events that needs to happen and what is required at which point and which is the most valuable thing, right? So that mental exercise to figure out if there's something that you and me can be involved in,
right,
which may not give like fantastic results in our lifetime, but like becomes a generational business. I don't know.
I mean,
like the canvas is so huge, right?
Yeah, no, that's it kind of reminds me of that scene in Oppenheimer where they build that entire town.
Okay.
Because they want to do research in secret. So they just like literally build an entire town out in the middle of nowhere, where there's like seemingly no civilian or military interest, and kind of pull it off. And like the things that kind of come up, like any town requires a bunch of things, but I think since the difference between the game where you start off at the Stone Age and kind of build to the space age is not going to be sort of applicable to moon landing or a Mars space, because we're going there with space age tech.
Oh yes.
Where
wow, that's a
we already have solved for plumbing and sanitation and food and housing and all of it. And all we're doing is going there and just setting it up.
Yeah.
And
that's a very beautiful perspective.
What is going to be interesting is things like we will need things to adapt to that atmosphere, gravitational conditions, and things like that. So it'll be a mild evolution of things. Like for example, let's talk about boring businesses on Earth, right? Like and like see how do they kind of like not connect per se completely in space, where they'll need to go through some stage of evolution to kind of work there. Let's take window cleaning for example, like a cleaning business in bountiful on Earth, like plenty of skyscrapers need cleaning. What is the tech that's not going to work over there?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can just hook up to a building. You don't need lifts on the moon because gravity. You could just like float.
Yeah, but Mars's gravity is comparable to Earth, slightly lesser, I'm guessing.
Sure. I'm just saying what process evolutions happen. And in in certain cases, what do we remove from the equation?
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And why we the people to do it in place of somebody who already has experience doing that? What if the United States' biggest window cleaning company just says, "Hey, yeah, we're just going to start a department too."
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, like, which just goes to space and services buildings there, and we have an outpost there, which
yeah,
offers all these cleaning services and sending manpower and this and that. I think there is a software layer which is going to be much more interesting, right? Like, so I was talking to this friend about volunteer networks. It's a big deal for especially the global north, so to speak, because they don't get the experiences that we do in the global south. For example, living on a farm is very accessible to you and me, right? Like we can plan something, we can speak to somebody, and even if it means finding a farm stay and kind of going there, a very touristy sort of a thing where we go to a farm in Coorg or like wherever, and they kind of 1.5 day is just taking us around the farm and showing us what they do and how they do it. Even that access is not easy because everything is sort of industrialized and shit. So volunteer networks allow people in the global north to experience things that are more accessible, more earthy, more in tune with nature and all of that. So I feel like maybe should we just start a HR company that pulls volunteers who want to go to the moon, and we can get like a whole bunch of skill sets so that there's a ready repository of people of workforce that kind of like is ready, wants to, and be trained to go abroad. And we're talking very similar to HR companies that take labor workforce from India to say Qatar to build the World Cup stadiums and villages and things like that. It's the same thing, right? Like I'm sure there are people here who like would love the opportunity to go to Qatar and build the stadium. And
even better idea.
Yeah.
Skill development to go there and work there.
I saw a company on someone's lecture who was doing skill development focused in the medical industry.
Okay.
So, developing doctors' capabilities for space healing and treatment.
Wow. Yeah.
So you're talking about something on
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
lines,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, what does it take to be a doctor on the moon or a doctor in Mars as compared to a doctor on Earth?
Yeah.
Is a great solution, and that requires research and development of. Yeah. So sure, okay. What kind of skill development? What is this?
No, so I'm just riffing, right? Like I'm just trying to figure out. It's like an intellectual exercise to try and figure out what is it that we should do.
Sure, I'm trying to extract some ideas from you about. So skill development is a huge umbrella.
Yeah.
Like I said, like I niched down medicine skill development for space. What is the kind of skill development that you would be interested in?
Not me being interested in, I would want to understand what would be required as part of this endeavor to have multi-planetary life. Right? So it's a no-brainer that you need some infra people there who need to go build a bunch of stuff. And then you need to figure out all the other utilities and stuff like that. Which I'm guessing big corporations would be very, very interested in. But what is
experienced it.
And experienced in. But what if we could think of something which is not industrialized, but still is a very essential requirement, right? Like coffee. Like, why not have? What would a cafe look like on Mars? Right, like that's a question, right?
Yeah. Interesting. So one side is that I've been interested in, and could be a department that Hasiru Aqua kind of ventures into, is food in space.
Yeah.
Uh, so we're doing aqua.
So Mars will have water. It does have water. So it's frozen. You need to unfreeze it.
Easy.
Grow fish.
Not specifically fish to so to speak at the start of it, but like really thinking from core tech, deep tech kind of perspective, right? Like what we're building now is probably the most hygienic way of cultivating fish on Earth, right? Um, it's a part of a larger system because cultivation practice is should not be isolated. That's a core thesis that Ajay and me discussed for a long time, and we decided to solve the aqua problem because there's not a lot of people in that space. But the real system that needs to be created is an aquaponics or a hydroponics, so the full-fledged ecosystem where the water and terrarium systems kind of work hand in hand to be able to feed off each other, create a system, cyclical system where you know fish are getting nutrition from plant waste, and the fish waste is being fertilizer to plant growth. Putting it super simply, but that is an overall system that is going to like actually. That is what we will want to take to Mars or the moon because that is now a holistic system which is giving various kinds of proteins, fats,
But then
carbs.
I'm guessing a lot of it would be dependent on the environment, right? Like
No, the basic idea of a full-fledged aquaponic system would be to create like an ICU level system, which is fully closed off from everything else. It's its own environment. It's its own natural habitat, so to speak. That can be transported. We're hoping to build something which is the size of this room, a 10 by 10 system that can grow a few tons of food and fish every year.
yeah, but here's the other problem, right? Like you can't have expensive food on Mars. So the margin again question comes up, right?
No, it's going to be transient, right? Like you're going to initially be shipping a lot of food from the earth to start get things moving, while agrarian systems will start getting implemented till Mars or the moon can be self-sufficient in terms of we are growing enough produce to kind of feed the
But
people.
doesn't this again fall in like large scale industry? Like America has like a large industrial food.
Yeah, but it's still
like what if a Monsanto decides, okay, I will go set up on Mars?
Sure. I mean, this is like I said. No, my hope is we build the systems fast enough, soon enough to get to a point where running to where the ball is going to be. That's the whole idea, right? Like start from the basic.
Again, my concern is around margin. It's like, okay, we can do food, but then like
No, that's happening. I wouldn't want us to mess with the flow of Hasiru Aqua.
No, not Hasiru. I'm talking about
Taco stand and one.
How life comes in full circle.
Yeah, I mean, like, rock on, make tacos. You can brand it, like, since you've not even started it, you can brand it food spaces and everything.
Okay, so food or food related stuff is one conversation. Labor.
Medicine, you and I can't.
Yeah, obviously. No, I mean we could be administrators, right? But yeah, basically, services and skill development is another sort of option.
Yeah.
What else? Like there's got to be something which is so going back to that example that they gave on the All-in Pod, right? Like when there's a gold rush, sell shovels, right? So what is that
Yeah,
opportunity?
that's what I was coming to next, which is tools.
Uh,
Like, I don't think uh, like everything is going to change in terms of how hammers, screwdrivers.
what would change?
We'll have to change them depending on the kind of environment, right? Like on the moon, especially.
Let's
The moon requires
no,
specialized.
I'm not interested in the moon, right? We're not going to habitat.
What?
I don't think it's that friendly. I'll come back to that.
Okay.
Mars gravity. Mars Earth. So is only about 38% of surface gravity on Earth. Yeah. A lot of stuff will require redesigning.
All artifacts that we use, all tools that we use will need redesigning.
Wow. It's almost like one third.
Yeah.
Oh. This is interesting now.
Yeah, it's probably the best weight loss program on the earth. To Mars. You feel a third side.
Wow. That is insane. But I'm sure there must be a lot of research going on about this, right? Like,
why space? What's
no. So
like
again, like it goes back to the original. Yeah, the original problem statement. Like you've got only a finite amount of time. You want to be doing the most high value thing. So that doubt constantly is there at the back of my mind. Like am I targeting the right thing to spend my time on? Like I'm beyond that point where I'm trying to do things just for the experience of it. Right? Now I'm doing things because I want an outcome.
You know what would be the fastest, quickest, high value thing that we could do? And here not, it's a total like what the hell kind of an idea. Uh, so who do you think are the first few people to be able to go? It's tourism, right? Like,
No. Tourism comes much later. The first set of people will be like astronauts, right? Like highly skilled and trained people.
okay, cool. Then, eh, so here's my take. My take is I think it's going to be like the first boat to America, right? Like the people who came on the Mayflower ended up being the creators of America, right? Like their names are like family names, which are like, oh, you need to know those names because it's like legacy kind of thing. So I think that similar thing is going to like history repeats. So I think a similar thing is going to happen. The first set of families who go there are going to be HMIs, right?
No, absolutely not. It is going to be the most harshest environment, and only the most brave, daring people will end up going there, right? So it's going to be
No, bro. Everybody brave and daring when there's a gold rush, right?
no, absolutely not. I do not expect any high net value person leaving the luxuries that they
Are you
have.
stupid? They just went down to see the Titanic in a fucking tin can and blew themselves, like imploded themselves, paying like shit ton of money.
No, so that is basically them miscalculating the risk.
They're going to do it with Mars. And they're going to pay excessive amounts of money to bypass the bravery, courage, and health requirements. You forget we live in the most corrupt world possible, right? Like when it comes to systems like this, being the first family on Mars, first 10 families on Mars is going to have legacy value, generational legacy value, and people are going to pay a tooth and a fucking limb to
Yeah,
get
but
that.
so okay.
And here's my spiel. My idea is let's just sell them insurance.
No, insurance is a complex business. I don't want to get into that. Yeah, but it's food for thought, right? Like, what is it that we can do that is going to unlock really crazy value? Yeah. But I'm just stuck on that, and I think a lot of
So
thought
not
is
space. What else do you think is crazy outlier that's going to be a big deal in the next few years?
Computer vision is going to be a big thing, and I think that will extend towards this theme itself. If you have machines that can understand its environment, sight being like a very key, input. Uh, yeah, the number of applications just exponentially increase, right? So yeah, definitely computer vision is at the top of my mind.
Okay.
So giving it, the ability to see via, cameras, infrared, I don't know, sonar, whatever, right? So many.
See via sound. Computers are one of those strange things that can actually see via sound.
Yeah, they can see via so many ways, right? It's a sensor, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah. And
Like what are all these satellites?
Image, you can imagine whatever you want, right?
So then, like, so you already have crazy positioning systems that are already built on Earth. Computer vision just gives you all the inputs that you need to start taking decisions, right? So that's what Tesla's basically about, right?
Their entire analysis,
yeah, it's around this. So, but once you have computer vision, what is the thing that you can apply to that will like unlock crazy amount of money, right? Obviously, the most obvious stuff is like basic stuff like mining, right? You can have like a robot farm which just goes and like mines a lot of minerals. Then you have like construction. Robot farms that can just go and like construct, infrastructure like crazy.
I'm hearing robots and robots again and again. So
Yeah, it's
robots is a
yeah. So computer vision ultimately leads to that, right? Like you once you have the ability to understand your environment, you have decisioning capability, then you want to execute, right? So then robots is the ultimate answer. And robots need not be like an android. It could just be like a truck which has
rover, whatever common shape it takes.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that part of design is going to be a whole crazy industry that's going to pop up.
Sure.
Because we're very, even through all the decades and decades of science fiction, we're still very restricted in what we imagine robots to look and behave like, right? It's so strange. And if you think about it from a philosophical perspective, earliest man did not comprehend why things happened to them. So they kind of blamed or uh, not blamed, but they.
Oh, wait. You just triggered the most insane thought. What if we go there and start a new religion?
Let me finish this. Let me finish this, and you realize why that's one of the things that will not be possible per se.
Okay.
There's a philosophical reason behind all this. So earliest man, uh, thunder, don't know, just scary, run from it, right? Like so, fear was the religion in some sense, and you would pray to nature to not do those things. Please don't rain tomorrow, right? Like I will offer you a rabbit. I don't know, something right? Like. Then came the idea that there is most likely this omnipresent, all-seeing being, which is actually responsible for all of this. That's where religion stems from, and the rules of what the omnipresent being likes and dislikes, and what you should do to please him versus not please him, kind of comes up from there. And then finally you have this. Finally, you have science coming, and you have now reasoning for lightning and thunder and storms and rain and pattern recognition of, and like all these studies and this battle between natural versus the metaphysical, the spiritual in some sense is happening, and it's funny because in these steps especially from when man recognized a god and gave him first shape of the sun or natural shapes, to a point where the pendulum kind of went to the other side, where you gave God in the form of human, and then went back from there to science, where it's like it's all natural. There's laws of nature which affect things, and which is now unsavory.
One second, I want to. How do I mute this?
Or the three dots on
Yeah.
the speaker.
Yeah, cool.
To science, which for so long has been like, these abstract laws, which are now being sort of rejigged together in Android form, giving godlike abilities to a human-like form. So, and yet there is this, like when ChatGPT came out, you and I were there, you were like, no, it's not intelligence,
it's not. Yeah.
it's just code, things like that. But a lot of people were scared. And it was that primal fear of, oh my god, a godlike thing has been created and has the potential to destroy us. But it's so strange that we want to create it in our form now. Like, I see the ultimate evolution or the ultimate application of ChatGPT or whatever AI actually gets developed in robots, which then people will want to look like humans first before the abstraction begins again. So, invariably, a Boston Dynamics or a similarly competitive player is going to build an Android, and that is going to be smart and intelligent in some sense, and polite and kind, and all of the stuff we see in sci-fi movies. Before we get to the point where we get away from that form, because we realize that form is limiting and constraining.
No, I get what you mean.
And it was just total philosophy,
Yeah, no, I
history,
get that.
that kind of, like, it's funny, ironic to me that we keep going from this abstraction to it's in human form to abstraction to it's in human form again. And
The human form makes it relatable, right? Like Tesla started developing their systems with the car, and they just said, okay, a humanoid is like an extension of the car, right? So for them, it was going from an abstract thing and then trying to just make it relatable. Right?
Yeah,
they found certain use cases.
But the car itself, today's Tesla car itself, in a lot of, like, if you were to if we had to on abstract talk about the features of a robot, the car is a robot already. It's just that we refuse
We
to
don't have perceive it as a
Yeah, we perceive it as a car, which is a very specific tool of transport, right? Like, and I feel like we're not, like, I don't know how to explain it. We already live in the world of robots, right? In some sense, like we have bulldozers and like they're mechanical and they're not like smart robots, but like they are robots, right?
Yeah. So going back to the original thing, right? The perception, the decisioning, and then execution, right? So we've got a lot of machines which help us with the execution. You just need to plug in the decisioning and the sensors on top.
Yeah. For example,
Cranes.
Home example.
Yeah.
Ishwar bought 3 vacuum cleaners and replaced his house help. Like, the robots literally took her job.
Seriously?
Yeah.
3 vacuums.
Yeah.
That's all it took.
Yeah.
No, but like washing dishes.
He's doing it himself.
Dishwasher. Yeah. Okay.
He's doing it himself now, and like the.
But why three
systems. Wet vacuum, dry vacuum, because they have pets and all of that. Like, and one handheld one to do like nitty gritty corners and nooks and stuff. So yeah, essentially he's become this like evangelist for vacuum cleaners. because he's like, these things are great. Like, every adult human being should have one, and like why? And then we had this whole conversation about why, as a culture, we need to stop providing or stop being dependent on human labor for.
Yeah, very good idea.
Yeah, and he was like, if the demand for those jobs are not there, it's like they're going to be they're going to have to upscale or go move horizontally and figure out something else, right? And he tried asking his house help to use the vacuum cleaner, and they refused. So he was like, so "You are the machine. Right? I need somebody to use. You use the machine, and if you don't want to use the machine, then I'll use the machine because the machine is just doing a better job."
Wow.
And that's the simplicity of it, right? Like it's always happened, it's bound to happen, it's going to keep happening. The painting has gone back into pure art, artistic expression realm, and not a lot of people are picking up the art form because there's no jobs for painters, like right, like the you can paint houses. That's all. The only commercially viable job for somebody.
I'm sure that can also be automated, right? At some point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's being done already.
But yeah, like I've been down this tangent ever since I watched those videos, and I'm like racking my brains to see if
No,
there's something.
so I want you to take a step back. In some sense, I feel like I'm already living the dream of and doing the things that I want to do, and I really do want to build something with you, which is something that not just a million people would use, but also something you and I are damn proud of building. Um, and I feel like even if we build a game, there is an intangible need for it, which
Yeah, I get all that, but again, it just goes back to that.
yeah. So what I want you to think about really is like, what is that life calling kind of thing? What, because at the end of it all, this is something that you and I are going to put time and effort into, and it's something we need to go in with full conviction, and something that we definitely believe in. And if we do this, and if we build something for space, likely you're saying your prediction is like it should like pan out in this decade. Which is like considering all the things that are going down. Like let's say it doesn't and it takes like longer, we have to stick it through.
Yeah, that's also another thing.
It can't be one of those pivoting based on whatever is trending.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not us, right? Like reiterating the statement of going to where the ball is going to be. That means that you have to make that journey. You have to wait it out. You have to be patient. You have to do the work in that time frame, right? Hasiru being my prime example today because those are the conversations me and Ajay had. We were like, it's going to take 10 to 12 years before this reaches the kind of scale that we want to. We better work on something that you and I won't get bored of working on. Won't get like
absolutely.
Right, like
consistency is the key.
Not just consistency. You want it to be interesting and motivating as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why you see when the OpenAI itself took like 8-10 years before it was considered anything, and like you see Sam Altman's interviews and he says like a lot of people laughed at him at a lot of stages. Right, like, and to be able to bear that, to be like you laugh, it's okay, I'm still gonna do this. You see when it pans out, right? Like that conviction is very important. So, anyways, since we've been talking about a game, building a game, it's not something I bought, but like I was going to buy it, and you were talking about consoles and shit. I really want you to.
Oh wow. Um,
So this is what Hadi is taking out. It's a retro gaming device. Uh, and
oh wow!
yeah, it's got all the old school games. And you can play it, and it's got very interesting lithium-ion battery which belongs in a Nokia 3310 powering it. So self-charges, has a small screen, most annoying, ridiculous, horrible speaker I've ever heard. And it was yeah, but like yeah, so that's what Haji is like taking out right now.
Wow!
Oh, he's playing Contra.
This is damn cool, dude.
Guess how much it is?
I don't know. $250?
Huh?
$250?
It's like 1200, 1500 ish.
Oh. Fucking A, dude.
So, my question. If hardware plus software in a game package can cost $1,200, $1,500 to make, is that an interesting?
It doesn't cost to make that. That's how much they sold it.
They sell it to you. Yeah. But like, okay, so it's like probably cost them more than $300, $400 to make. Is that an interesting idea?
Yeah, absolutely.
To build hardware oriented game.
Yeah.
Because what I was thinking of was this is a standard console. This is the console that you and I have been used to for 20 years now. Yeah. Right? What if we could mess with the positioning of the buttons and make games that require only that kind of positioning? Absolutely.
I would take it a step further and say that make it so custom that nobody else can also adapt to this, right? Like, don't allow this to be a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's meant to play one game.
Yeah.
So that's what I was like thinking of. Like in terms of innovation.
Yeah. Absolutely, I'm all on board with this.
Because what if like Guitar Hero is a great example. You need a unique controller. Of course it's like ridiculous that anyway. Opinions aside, but as a concept you need a unique controller. The controller doesn't need like explanation. Yeah. It's intuitive. You know what to do with it as soon as you start. Yeah. So that was where I was coming up with this thing. Because today the cost of making something like this is pretty easy. Yeah. Learning to program some hardware isn't too difficult either. Yeah. It's like...
Yeah, I'm excited about this, dude.
Yeah. So I don't have it here, but I will ship one Makey to you, and that's an input controller. And I want you to first start by doing the standard project, standard projects, and see how that works out. But I really think that's something that will get your...
No, I'm already there. Like the moment you showed me this, like it just like fired all the neutrons in my...
Yeah. So what do you think? What kind of...
So that's the problem, right? I'm not a creative person, so I can't think of an end application. But like this is the thing which was nagging me about this whole AR VR thing, right? You're trying to create a platform where you can like build a bunch of things and have that experience. But I was like, there are some use cases which are so specific your controllers will not be the best way to interface with that system, right?
Oh, interesting.
Right?
So just build unique controllers for your platforms.
Yeah.
Very fascinating. Yeah, and totally ties in my like love for the physical meets the digital.
Yeah, absolutely. But going back to where we dropped off last time, right? Auto driver, India, AR experience. I don't know. I'm just just throwing things out there, right? So today when I was coming here, I love people watching, right? So I was in an auto rickshaw, and there was other auto rickshaws, and I was looking inside to see what people are up to, right? In one of the auto rickshaws, there was this very young girl, and like she was doing all sorts of acrobatics to kind of get a selfie, right? Or she was taking a reel or something like that. And that just like triggered my mind, saying that, oh, like not, I'm a very vanilla person, so I kind of just sit straight and look forward. But people use that space like very interestingly, right? So what if you could have, and even ties back to going to the Indian Music Experience Museum. They have auto rickshaws there with like a audio visual, thing set up. And I think a large part of our population like experiences auto rides, right? So can we have like a augmented reality auto experience? Just like putting crazy ideas out there.
Yeah, I mean, see, that's the thing with, I guess, the problem with being a creative person is like, I'm like, yeah, we can. There's no problem. We can do it. All of it is possible, right? Like, no, I'm not so keen on AR, VR yet.
Okay.
Especially in the context of what we're talking about. Uh,
maybe we start with a handheld controller with a screen, and then convert it to a AR VR experience.
I mean, sure. I don't want to force things in.
Of course.
I'm okay. So, like, I'd rather explore. Okay, we have these. Okay, AR, VR, and unique controller, and all of that. Cool. I'm just trying to. What part of the auto driving, auto experience? What is it that you're? Because there's a cultural context to it. And the context being that for us Indians, we take a auto rickshaw ride as a norm. It's just something passe. But for a person traveling to India, like for them, it's such a unique, bizarre experience. I read this entire blog article about this guy who came to Bangalore to travel as a tourist, American person, kind of older, must be in his mid 40s something. And this one post, this almost like 1,000-word post, was like entirely about this one auto trip he took. Right? Like he was petrified at how open the auto is, how easily, like you're so in nature almost. The thing is rattling, and like you could feel every pothole and like speed breaker and brake, and like so like super interesting experience for him. But that also, like, it becomes sort of the novelty wears off rather quickly also, I would say, because being in Goa, South Goa, there were some weird dudes who had come, and instead of renting bikes and cars, they rented autos. Because they were like, it just makes so much sense to rent the auto and just ride it around, because you want to go alone, you can go alone. You can. It's like a mini, like a really tiny pickup truck, right? Like where you can throw stuff in the back, you can bring your friends, like, right? Like, so it's always that, right? Like somebody come and be like, I want to twist this experience wholly. So I'm more interested in knowing like what part of the auto driving driver auto person experience, because I was looking more at a like life of a auto person.
I'm also I'm also along the same lines, right? The cultural experience of being almost ferrying the diversity of India, right? Like an auto driver experiences all kinds of
that shit would happen or have happened to you, where we were in that village, and that guy refused you coffee because he assumed you're a Muslim. Do you think like that kind of behavior will be something that happens where an auto driver assumes you're of a certain identity and refuses?
Yes, that's happened. Yeah.
Happened to you?
Yeah.
And like, what was the story?
So generally, most of my hair grooming styles are kind of more aligned towards Arabic style.
Okay.
So, like, there was this one time when I looked a certain way,
Okay.
and I could clearly see that side eye prejudice sort of thing.
This
right?
is a Bombay, amazing.
Everywhere, like
Okay.
it's not like localized to a certain place, right? So yeah, like I get that quite a bit.
Interesting. Very interesting. There was no, because there was VR was used in certain psychological studies where people were put in other skin literally, and like when someone put on a headset and when they looked at a mirror in the virtual world and looked at themselves as of a skin color that they were prejudiced towards, the empathy levels changed, and them living in somebody else's shoes, even for a few seconds, opens up the mind kind of a thing. So, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of that exploration possible, right? Like, interesting. So if you were to build something, I mean, even taking a step back from unique controller, unique device kind of a situation, just a super task oriented, linear almost mobile game.
Yeah.
Very accessible.
Yeah.
Where you get to choose the kind of Auto-wallahas you want to be, and yeah, main quests and side quests and so on and so forth. And yeah, could be. I know that it will be very visually stimulating, especially if you have like the crowds and like level one, you're like auto driver in Bodh Gaya, right? Like ferrying people through beautiful jungle areas and like picking up like 20-30 passengers at a time. Level two, you come to I don't know, Delhi and it's like chaos and yeah.
But there's so much of scope, right? Like, I at least me personally have had fantastic conversations with auto guys, right? Like I was just telling a colleague of mine the other day that auto drivers are some of the smartest people, right? They figured out how to game so many systems, right? The classic Uber thing where they come and they'll be like, credited directly to my wallet, I'll cancel the ride, those kind of things, right? There was this one auto driver, I think about 6 months ago when I was coming to visit you. He started with a very innocent line of questioning, right? Saying, "Hey, you seem educated. What do you do?" Right? "Oh, software developer. What kind of company do you work for?" And then, bam! Like, "Oh, you must be earning more than 15 lakhs a year, right?" So I earn about 2,000 rupees a day. You are probably at this number. Do you think this ride is equitable?
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, wow. I mean, obviously, he's not using the sophistication of this language, but it was the logic was like rock solid, right? And he was like, I'm exposed to all this pollution. My hand hurts from changing gears. My back hurts from potholes. Right? I'm putting in so much effort to take you somewhere where you're going to probably have a lot of fun, which I can never get access to.
Wow. He tripped you.
Yeah, and he was like, just pay me out of the goodness of your heart, whatever money you can extra above the fixed rate. Right? And this is already on an Uber, which is going to charge me a little bit more. This is before the price cap thing came in, right? So there's already a surge thing, right? But like that element also can come into the game, right? Like auto drivers can kind of really surprise you.
I'm wondering if there is a social angle to it that we can incorporate.
Absolutely. Like I remember there was this one auto driver, again coming here to visit you. His jam was so he had lost his corporate job and was struggling to get back in. And he figured that riding an auto rickshaw was the easiest way to network with high value people.
Yeah.
And he just would connect with everybody on WhatsApp to see what opportunities get created.
Fantastic.
Like crazy, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's
so the social angle is what can be who jumps into the auto.
Yeah.
And it could both be real players.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. So you start the game choosing
whether you're a passenger or the auto driver, right? So if you're the passenger, you get to decide the destination. If you're the auto driver, you kind of take them there and then you decide how you want to engage with them.
On the
and then random stuff happens. Right? You could get into an accident. You could.
Of course, acts of God.
Yeah, there's so many things that can happen, right? You guys decide to because this is unstructured, right? Like you guys could just decide, hey, let's pull over here and do a side quest, right?
Yeah.
Like any number of things could happen, right?
Yeah. So like we're at like some weird open world situation.
Yeah. I mean, it did not start there. It could be something very finite and very well defined.
Yeah, of course. You can build the levels up to it.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting. I'm also like trying to, so the complexity and the beauty will kind of come in trying to create those spaces, the environment. Yeah, very exciting.
I think definitely a lot of literature we need to kind of generate about these various aspects, right? From our own experiences.
Yeah.
What are the kind of interactions that we can foresee?
Yeah.
And then go wild with it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Go wild with it. I think that's the bombshell on which we call it on today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is fantastic. Like we went the whole gamut and came back.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to throw this wrench in the works of what if we inversely marry the two and make it about not an auto driver but a space delivery person going to help establish a colony.
Oh wow. That
from an extremely Indic culture perspective, right? Like, I'm sure the conversation between an Indian astronaut and command center in Sriharikota is going to be very different from what we know of as Houston, we have a problem to eventually काम नहीं कर रहा. It is going to be very fascinating to explore in its own right.
Right.
And I'm saying space seems unreachable and inaccessible and super expensive. And from a very tech perspective, India has done a lot to like prove that it doesn't need to be, right? Like we are doing crazy missions on cheap budgets. But then why isn't the socio-cultural context also not adding on to it, right? Like in some sense, how do we make space actually, we need to go on for 2 more minutes because there was this thing that, and I'll explain why. There was a whole space scene in Nevada, the flights scene, airports and aerodromes and all of that, which led to a hobby culture of flight enthusiasts who were also building and so these are people who went to work at a Boeing or whatever, and then they loved flying and the tech so much that they would have their own hangar and they're building their own plane and all of that. Bangalore was such a culture where we had HAL first come here, right? But for whatever reason, we didn't have the hobbyism come through. right? Like, and why even now there's such an interest in space, and so many people are so fascinated by it, but there's such a disconnect, right? It's such a black box that only ISRO gets to do this. But it's not true. There are private companies in India who are doing the space play, right? Like, so how do you make it accessible on that level? Maybe the messaging is through a game, right? Like, if you could show that, like, it will be that simple in the future that, going to the moon or going to Mars and back as a quote unquote truck driver is going to be the norm.
Yeah. But see, the problem with that tangent is it's a long haul thing, right? I the appeal of a auto driver experience is it's a very finite sort
Sure,
of.
man, like level 5, right? Like, you're now auto driver who's going to space.
Yeah. So that I'm for, right? Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like it starts off in space.
Yeah.
I'm saying let's start on Earth. Like,
Yeah.
this guy levels up to a point where he's like astronaut banega.
Absolutely, I'm on board with that. Oh wow, some Shivaji Nagar dude, like, Mars or whatever.
Oh, many sir.
Wow, yeah.
Oh, sir.
Yes,
Right,
let's
sir.
do this.
Thank you so much.